Here we are 2 weeks into our 30-day challenge. How'd you do? It's no fap for you and me. 30 articles in 30 days for me. 1 meal a day for me. 2 meals a day for you, as long as you're following 30 days of discipline. So how did you do? It seems that most people who fail the no fap challenge, they fail between the 7th and the 10th day. Those are the hardest days to get through. If you can get through those days, you can go forever. But the trick is to get through those first 7 to 10 days. The first 7 days you'll feel great, then the cravings will become seemingly unbearable. And most people fail, most men fail at 7 to 10 days. Let me read you a comment from Graham, who has been following this challenge with us. Graham says, I have been on NoFap since about mid-October, so a little bit before you started these November challenges. I have gone 90 days before and felt like I was on steroids, mentally and physically, and I was very sensitive to any kind of sexual stimulation. Needless to say, my natural charisma shot through the roof during this period. Nothing else that I have done has ever made me feel like a high-test male than doing NoFap. It's a great feeling. My request is that for some part of the podcast you talk about success stories from people you know. I ask this because at about the 7 to 10 day mark, the relapse urge really starts to kick in. I am still going strong, and whenever I feel the urge, I make a point to go read success stories from around the internet, and also my journal from when I did the 90 days. I aim to make this a permanent change and never ejaculate again unless it's during sex with a woman. The incredible scope of benefits from higher energy, mental clarity, increased strength and stamina, better looks from clear skin and eyes especially, to even having a more pleasing body smell are all too good to give up. Lastly, even if one is doing NoFap and doesn't have a sexual outlet, the high energy gained from the discipline can be channeled into getting those things or into work, school, business, or to work on your mission. Amen, my friendly friend. There are some unbelievably tremendous benefits from the NoFap. In fact, here's what Tom says about NoFap. Tom says, I'm on day 9 of a NoFap streak. I have unbelievable energy. I'm literally sitting at my computer screaming. It's like being on drugs. I'm having intense, crazy gorilla sex with my girlfriend. Some days I'm so motivated, I go out and chase tail at night even. I had to take a break from the gym because of a slip disc. Ordinarily, I would feel horrible for 9 days off. I feel okay because of the NoFap streak. I'm convinced my T is higher because of this. One downside is I am having an extremely hard time focusing on one task, particularly mundane shit I don't want to do. I know it gets better as time goes on. Keep it up, dudes. Yes, it's very difficult to focus on things you don't want to do when you have high testosterone. It's usually low testosterone beta males who do the things they don't want to do. And those with high T, such as you and me, don't like doing things we don't want to do. But there is one thing we definitely want to do, and that is listen to the goddamn Bold and Determined podcast.
Oh!
Welcome to the Bold and Determined podcast with your man Victor Pride. And right here on the podcast for winners, we're bringing you motivation and mindset for the killers and real dealers, the makers and the takers, the winners and the grinners, and goddamn, even the sinners too. Let's get started. Hello, my friendly friends. Welcome back to the Bold and Determined podcast with your man Victor Pride. And we are in our second, actually going into our third week on the 30-day challenge. Now, I did mention, had a coffee this morning, friends, and coffee really messes up my voice. I think it's kind of a stupid thing to do right before a podcast, but it has become my pre-podcast ritual. I go and get me a espresso, but it really does mess up the voice, so kind of a silly thing to do. So I might need to find me another ritual. But let's get into the show. Donald J. Pump asks, Vic, you seem like a very self-assured and confident man. You don't give a rat's ass about what anyone says, thinks, or writes about you, your company, or your opinions. How can I develop an unapologetic mindset like yours? Ooh-wee. Well, if you want to develop a mindset like mine, I'd say you need to be in my skin. However, I can help you develop an unapologetic mindset in your skin. But mine goes back all the way to when I was in school, and I would look around at the people in school and I would think, gee willikers, these people are a little bit silly. They're doing things that they're just parroting things. I would look at all the people who got good grades in school, and I would think, these people are not that smart, but they're good at remembering what the teacher said, and they're good at parroting what the teacher said. Some people call it a teacher's pet. Now, I don't begrudge these people for getting good grades, but when I would look at these people, I would think, these are not people I want to emulate. These people are not original. They're not creative, especially. So it always seemed a bit silly to me to listen to the opinions of people who were not creative or not even that intelligent, if we're being perfectly honest. Because I could look around and see that these people were not exactly the cream of the crop. And I admit I went to school in retard land in the middle of the country. But I would look around at these people and think, they tell me things, but the things they tell me are just kind of dumb. They're just kind of silly. So at a young age, I decided it's not a bright idea to listen to these people because they don't know what the hell they're talking about. And I felt from a young age, I knew what I was talking about. Whether or not that's true, that's a different story. But I always felt that way. I always felt that I only talk about things that I feel I know about. And I don't open my mouth about something I don't know about. So when I open my mouth, I'm sure about it. So because I'm sure about it, it just doesn't matter what anybody else says, because I'm sure. The only reason you would change your mind or mold your opinion to fit somebody else is if you were not sure about it. And I would look around and see that most people were not sure about anything unless there was a general consensus on it. But I found that everything we have a general consensus about, well, goddamn, it's usually wrong. It's usually the opposite of what actually gets you what you want, which is success or women or freedom. Listen, the way they tell you to get women, be nice, buy her flowers, be a real good guy. Hey, that's a real great way to get shit on, but that's not a real great way to get some pooty. They tell you the way to be successful is to do real good in high school and get real good grades so you can go to a real good college. But then I look at all the people who went to college, they're struggling in debt, working jobs they hate under fluorescent lights. And all the people who actually got rich are college dropouts who did it their own way. So it's like the crabs in the bucket. When you cook a bunch of crabs in a bucket, one crab is going to try and crawl out to get out of the boiling water, but the other crabs are going to pull them right back down into the boiling bucket. People are a lot like the crabs in the bucket. You try to get out, they're going to try and pull you back in because it's not that they're bad people, but it's human nature. It's human nature to pull you back down to where they are and be comfortable in the consensus. But I was never comfortable in the consensus. The consensus never made sense to me. It always seemed like a silly thing to do. Now, I can admit that I'm not a normal average person. Most people I run into value the consensus, and I never did. And because of that, I've been able to achieve the three things that every man wants, which is success, women, and freedom. And everybody who follows the consensus doesn't. I see results from doing the exact opposite of what people say to do. So what person in their right mind, knowing that you get results from doing the opposite, would turn around and do what they say, knowing that you're not going to get results? So it's really not about an unapologetic mindset because there's nothing to apologize for. You want something, you got to do the things that are going to get it. And following the consensus is the exact opposite way of getting what you want. People talk about being unapologetic, but I see people apologize all the time, and I think, why? Why are you apologizing? For what? People apologize for nothing, for nonsense. People will apologize for walking. They'll walk by you and say, oh, I'm sorry. For what? For walking by? What are you apologizing for? There's no need for apologies. Listen, go spit in somebody's face and say, gosh, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to do that. It was an accident. But don't apologize for walking down the street or walking in front of somebody. If you got to get from A to B, you got to walk there to get there. Don't apologize for walking from A to B. If you're here and you want to get there, there's only one way to get there. Walk there. Do it. Don't apologize for it because there's no need for apologies. There's no need. You ask me how to be unapologetic. I ask you, why be apologetic in the first place? For what good does it serve for apologizing from walking from A to B? Don't apologize because there's no reason to apologize. Don't listen to the consensus unless you want what the consensus has. And I never did. And that's that. Delroy asks, is it just me or is homosexuality on the rise? I've witnessed 3 people in my personal life transform from men with normal drives for women in high school to bisexual, queer, and transsexual in their mid-20s. I used to think sexuality was determined by 18 or so. Now I'm not so sure. Yeah, it does seem to be on the rise, doesn't it? Good golly. What is the reason for this? Well, I think we can come up with a couple of reasons. Number one, there are estrogenic compounds poisoning us and estrogenizing us. We could look around and see that men are much lower in testosterone than they used to be, and women are much higher. Now, because of these estrogenic compounds in the food, in the water, in the air, in the everywhere, in the clothes we wear, in everything, it is serving to estrogenize us. On the other hand, because of our desperate attempts at quote-unquote female rights, when, let's be real, females always had rights in the West. We've never been oppressors of women. The media and the powers that be have convinced the women that they were oppressed by having children and letting their husband take care of them while they just stayed at home. Now they get to stop being oppressed and go to work like the rest of us. Yay! Isn't work so great? Did you get to spend 50 hours a week in a fluorescent office, being a slave to the office, being a slave to the boss instead of taking care of your children, taking care of the house, and having a nice free life, free of stress? Good thing we liberated women from having to take care of children and take care of the house while the man went away to work and take care of all the bills. Now the woman gets to go to work too. Woo-wee. That worked out so well for everybody. In fact, it worked out so well that now most men can't find a girl to fuck. And because they can't find a girl to fuck, because all the women, you see, a man has to have a woman who is beneath him. A woman has to have a man who is above her. And because these women have such astronomical egos because they think working is such a big deal, they can't find a man who is above them. So because they cannot find a man to marry, they can find a man to have a little fun with, but that man is having fun with a lot of different females and doesn't want to settle down. And the type of guys who do want to settle down can't find anybody. So it seems like they're just butt fucking each other now instead of going after the ladies. So there's a couple different things at play here. The poison in the air, in the water, in the food, the poison in the media, the poison in the government is would seem like it's helping along the homosexuality. And it also seems like, it certainly does seem, friends, like they would like to decrease the population. And I'm only saying that because that's exactly what they said they want. And homosexuality, women's liberation, these are all great ways to lower the population. If you want to fight back, well, if you want to fight back, if you want to not be a victim to this anymore, it's really, really important to, well, we'll get to that. I know somebody asked a question like this, so we'll get to that. Let's move on. Alex asks, how can you reduce muscular tension? How can you fix muscular imbalances? How can you deal with scoliosis? Ooh, that was a mouthful. Okay, first of all, I want you to pick up this book, Becoming a Supple Leopard by Kelly Starrett. I want you to pick up that book and read it and do what that book says. Number 2, I want you to look up mobility exercises on YouTube and follow those. Number 3, I want you to stop thinking any negative thoughts. Negativity and anger will manifest in your body and make you stiff as a board. If you're free in the thoughts, you're going to be free and elastic in the body. So get rid of all negative thoughts. Don't think them. Force them out of your mind. Think only positive thoughts. Another thing, visualize your body becoming well. Activate your imagination and visualize clearly in your imagination your body becoming well. Every day, every morning, every night, your thoughts will become a reality. Thoughts are real things. Thoughts produce vibrations, And the more willpower you have in your imagination, the more these things will become true. Everything that ever happened in this world started with someone's imagination. You getting well is going to start with your imagination. So every day, in every way, I want you to start imagining yourself becoming well. Think it, and you will become it. John asks, how to discover my talents? Well, you should already know what your talents are. You should have known what your talents are by the time you were 12 years old. What are you good at? If you don't know what you're good at, how is anybody else going to point out what you're good at? That's kind of a silly thing to ask a stranger. What are you good at? That's what you're good at. What are you good at? That's what your talent is. Whatever you were born to do is what you're good at. Whatever you excel at already, that's what your talent is. I'll have an article coming out about this very soon, so be sure and check that. Octavio asks, have you read Do the Work by Steven Pressfield? I recommend it if you haven't. It's a book about overcoming our inner resistance and breaking the barriers we put up against ourselves. Yes, I've read the book. Pretty good. Couldn't finish it, but pretty good. I've got an article coming out soon that is called How to Overcome Writer's Block, which shows you how to do the work, as Steven Pressfield would say. And it's a lot easier than you think. Doing the work is not hard. The hard part is not doing the work. The hard part is committing to doing the work. Committing to doing the work is the hard part, because we all have that voice that says, that's good enough. You can quit. That's good enough. You can quit. Finish it later. Just quit now and finish it later. You have to not listen to that voice. That voice in the mind is a liar. The Buddhists always told us that the mind is a liar, and they were right. The mind will tell you, quit now. It's okay. Just do it later. Quit now. You got to say, no, I will not quit now. I will commit to doing the work. And once you commit to doing the work is easy. Doing the work is the easy part. The hard part is overcoming your mental resistance. Your mind, which is telling you, quit. That's the hard part, is not listening to your own mind, because your own mind is a real big liar. Cameron asks, do you regret your living it up period once you found success? Pride mansion, partying, spending money? Do you need to have a period of this to get it out of your system? You know what? I think that everybody who went from nothing to something does have a period like that, where they just blow money left and right. They just don't care. They think, I'm going to make all this kind of money forever. And then they just shit out the money. So I think it happens to everybody. Do I regret it? No, I don't regret it. Everything you do is a learning experience. If you've never been through it, you don't know much about it. So it's a good thing to go through and realize the next time, or every other day after that, you got to be smart with your money. You got to be real smart. You got to be even stingy with your money. You got to be real stingy with your money. You're not going to know that until you have a period where you just blow it all on nonsense. Damon asks, hey Vic, can you talk more about the benefits of getting used to doing what is hard and why we should train ourselves to do this? Well, everything that's good in this world came as a result of doing work. Everything that comes too easy is not important to us. Easy come, easy go, as Queen would say. And you don't appreciate something until you work for it, until you work hard for it. And you just feel better about all things when you work hard. You don't feel good about your day unless you did a lot of work, cooked your own food, did some sort of exercise, did something good for people. You don't feel good doing nothing. You never feel good getting nothing for something. That's why people who win the lottery always go broke within a few years, because they don't appreciate it. And appreciation/gratitude is a very important part of life. Without it, life is not so pleasant. As Juvenal would say, luxury is more ruthless than war. Stan asks, what are your views on deviated septum surgery? Also, have you ever had any surgeries, and what was your experience like? I don't have any views on deviated septum surgery. I did have surgery on my hand when I broke it in Vietnam, and my experience was nothing. I went in, I had surgery. When I woke up from the surgery, I couldn't feel my hand, so I would bang it on the gurney and laugh because I couldn't feel it, because I was still loopy from the whatever drugs they gave me, which I don't recommend you do. If you get surgery on your hand because it's broken, they put a pin in it, don't swing the damn thing against the wall because it's funny. Bradia asks, what's your thoughts on swimming in lakes in winter and rolling in snow? When I was in Russia, I was suggested this, and it was a great experience, and it cleared my mind. My heart felt better, my skin felt better, my breathing improved. Is this something you've done before? Is this something you try as winter is just around the corner in your country? You know what? That sounds like a lot of great fun. That sounds like something wonderful to do. I've never done it myself, but that sounds like a real great challenge. I do take cold showers, which doesn't quite compare, but it's a little bit close. And cold showers give me a lot of those same benefits, but that sounds like a real nice challenge. And if it gets cold enough, and it has started getting cold in the past 2 days, I might find me a lake or a river to jump in and freeze my balls off, and that's that. Hassan asks, does Red Supplements plan on releasing a multivitamin, probiotics, or a non-stimulant fat burner? No, not in the near future we don't. If you guys have something you want to see from Red Supplements, do let me know in the comments. We've got a new a testosterone booster coming out real soon, and I'll keep you informed about that. We are thinking about CBD oil, but I still haven't tried it yet, so I don't know about that. But whatever else you want to see in the lineup of Red Supplements, leave a comment, let me know. We'll see if we can make it happen. Ted asks, Victor, what are your thoughts on fighting astral enemies, people who attack you during sleep? How can we protect ourselves from these entities? All right, the way you can protect yourself from astral enemies, astral travelers attacking you during your sleep, is to have a good, positive mindset. These things always come at you when you're negative, when you're experiencing negativity and stress and depression and sadness and anger and all this stuff. That's when you are open for attack. When you're happy and pleasant and your mood is bright, these things have no energy to feed off. These things have to be invited in like vampires. And the way that they're invited in is with your bad energy. They feed on bad energy. They feed on negative energy. If you don't have negative energy to feed on, they will die. But if you have negative energy to feed on, they will feed on it, and they will grow and get bigger and stronger, and they won't leave you alone. So the best thing to do is to force all negative thoughts out of your mind. You have full control of everything you think, of everything that pops in your mind. I told you the mind is a liar. And you can choose to not listen, or you can choose to force yourself. When you get a negative thought, force yourself to think something positive instead. Make yourself be better. Make yourself be better. And when you make yourself be better, nothing can hurt you. Benjamin asks, Vic, what's the truth regarding cholesterol? The truth about cholesterol is that the people who eat the highest amount of cholesterol live the longest, and the people who don't eat cholesterol die the fastest. Everything they told you about eating cholesterol is a lie. Cholesterol is a building block of health. It is a vital necessity for human health. If you don't eat it, you will not be well. You will not be well mentally or physically. And I do have an entire article dedicated to this coming out soon. But know this, cholesterol and saturated fat are vital to your health. If you don't eat them, you will not be well. Did you ever see a vegan who looked healthy? Did you ever see a vegan who was mentally well? No, never, because they're not eating cholesterol. When people go to their doctor, do you know what the symptom of high cholesterol is? Feeling good. People who have high cholesterol from eating bacon and eggs every morning for breakfast feel good. Then the doctor does a blood test and says, you've got high cholesterol. You got to cut out the bacon and eggs, and you got to start eating oatmeal and asparagus. And then they start to feel like shit. They start to get sick. They start to get worse. They start to die early. You should never ever listen to them who tell you don't eat cholesterol. You must eat cholesterol to be healthy. It's as simple as that. Jay asks, we know you like beef. Do you eat chicken? Never see chicken mentioned in your articles or hear you talk about it with the carnivore diet. For sure eggs, but I mean chicken meat. No, I pretty much never ever eat chicken because beef is just your number one. Red meat is your number one health and wellness supplement. Chicken doesn't have enough fat, and it doesn't have a good omega-3 to omega-6 ratio. Beef has the best omega-3 to omega-6 fatty acid ratio, and that is why it's the best meat to eat. Red meat is the winner. Red meat is what leaves you satisfied. Chicken doesn't leave you satisfied. Chicken is good here and there, but as a general staple, don't like chicken, don't care for it, beef is the winner. Joel asks, do you eat dairy products like cheese and butter? If so, how often? Oh, you bet. I eat butter nearly every single day. I even bought some raw butter. Costs $15 for a pound of raw butter, raw unpasteurized butter, but it is delicious. and I eat it every day. I eat cheese every now and again. I do like cheese a lot, but I've been eating 1 meal a day. And I've been getting so full from the meat that I don't have any room to eat any cheese. So yes, I'm a great big fan of butter and a pretty good fan of cheese. Michael asks, hey Vic, curious what your thoughts are on lifting being more than just a way to look good and feel good. Sometimes I feel as if the iron speaks to me. I know it's not like that for everyone, but for us, true Ronin and Shogun, I feel we have a special connection with the weights. Whenever I am feeling down, the iron is always there. It doesn't take days off. It is true to its word. Oh, you bet. In our world, because we don't hunt anymore, we don't do anything physical anymore, the gym has become our temple. So it's much more than just looking good and pumping up for the girls. It's more than doing some curls for the girls. It's more than getting yourself a six-pack for the beach. It's our temple. It is our, good golly, it's so very important. It's so vital to get in the gym and pump iron. Like I said, we're not hunting anymore. We're not living in the wild anymore. Everything like that has been taken from us. We've got to do these things to keep our sanity and keep our spiritual health. So lifting, people have the wrong idea about lifting weights. They think it's all about looking good and this or that, when in reality, it's like going to church and keeping your spirituality in check. It always makes you feel better when you're down. When you're down, go to the gym, pump some iron. You will feel better. It is like medicine. Spiritual medicine. That's what the gym is. It's not a damn thing to do with looking good or getting strong. It's spiritual medicine. Raymer asks, whatever happened to the Red Supplements protein powder? Well, we sold out of it and we never reordered it because number one, it was not a great big seller. Number two, I really recommend that you eat food rather than taking a protein supplement. Beef is going to be your greatest protein supplement, and protein powder, it's inferior. Now, even though I could sell it and make money, it's inferior to food. It's inferior to steak and eggs. So I'd rather see you eat steak and eggs and save a little money to buy something that works much better than protein powder, something like Red Growth, which actually will put muscle on you, whereas protein powder, it doesn't put muscle on you. It just doesn't. Food works better, and then after you get your food and get your supplements that actually work, like Red Growth. Joseph asks, what are your views on Joe Rogan? He seems to smoke a lot of marijuana. You know, there's a lot I could say about Joe Rogan. Joe Rogan is somebody with an iron discipline, an iron will, and a very strong constitution. He's somebody that can smoke reefer and still get things done. And most people who smoke reefer can't get things done. Now, he's a bad influence in that sense because he is not like normal people. Joe Rogan is not a normal person. Joe Rogan has an iron discipline. Joe Rogan has been in the spotlight, as it were, since the mid-90s. So he's not somebody new with his podcast. He's been around the block for a long time, and he's made a lot of things popular. He was on a show called Fear Factor, which was hugely popular. He's a commentator for the UFC, which is hugely popular. He has the #1 podcast of all time, which is hugely popular. He's a stand-up comedian and probably directly responsible for the resurgence of comedy. He is probably responsible for the popularity of Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. He is not a normal person in the slightest sense. But because he doesn't understand that he's not a normal person, he's got a superior constitution. He's a big proponent of smoking reefer. And a lot of people who watch his show are not like him. They watch his show, they smoke reefer, they get into it, and then they stop living their life. They stop doing a lot of these things that they should be doing. They're not out getting after it. They're smoking reefer. And you can look at the comments on his YouTube videos to see all the people who just smoke reefer and do nothing to watch his show. So he's a bad influence in that regard because he is convincing people that it's okay to smoke reefer. But these people are not Joe Rogan. They're not getting things done. They are throwing their life away for little Mary Jane. That's that about Joe Rogan. Not a normal person. A drug addict, of course, doesn't really understand that he's a drug addict, but he's a functioning drug addict. And he's a very high functioning drug addict. Very, very high. Well, ha. A very high functioning drug addict. That's Joe Rogan. Michael asks, men are funny and women are not. The funniest people are all men. What exactly is it about men that makes them funny and women not funny? What is the purpose of men being funny and women not being funny? Is it simply to attract a woman? I heard someone mention that from an evolutionary perspective, men developed to be funny to attract a female. No, that's not true in the slightest, because funny men don't attract females. Attractive men make women laugh, but funny men don't attract females. So it has nothing to do with attraction. The funniest men I know are all involuntarily celibate, can't get a woman, and develop a sense of humor probably because of that. And the more women you get, the less funny you become. The more women you get, the less funny you are. So this evolutionary perspective, all this evolutionary perspective stuff is always wrong. It's never correct. It's never the reality. The reality is men and women are not equal. Men and women are opposite. So whatever you are, she isn't. And whatever she is, you aren't. Men and women, men are funny. Women are not. Men are motivated by things that women are not motivated by. Men are workers. Women are not. Women are decorators. Men are not. Everything she is, you aren't. That is because we are two halves of the same whole. But if we were on the same side, we would not be whole, would we? And that's what's going on today. We are not whole. Men and women are two halves of the same whole, but when women act like men, it causes a very big disturbance and causes disharmony. When there is harmony in the world is when men are funny and women are women. When men are men and women are women, there is harmony in this world. That is because we complete each other like the yin and the yang. That's why men are funny and women are not. Because we are everything they are not, and vice versa. R.H. asks, what is your opinion on Woody Allen's movies? What is your favorite and why? I don't like Woody Allen's movies. I've only seen a few of them, but I've never laughed at any of them. I don't like Woody Allen. I don't like anything about Woody Allen. I don't have any favorite of his movies because I don't like any of his movies. There's something wrong with him. There's something very wrong with him. He is not like us. He is anxious. There's something very wrong with him. That's really all I can say. There's just something very wrong. And I don't understand people who like Woody Allen's movies. I think, why? What is wrong with you that you like his movies? He's not funny. He's a creep. That's what he is. He's a creep. He's a weirdo creep. And I don't use that word. I've never used the word creep, but I will use it for Woody Allen. Dude's a creep. A creepo. Wolf asks, what do you think about dream interpretation? Just hocus pocus, or could there be bigger meaning behind some symbols? No, it's all hocus pocus. Dreams don't mean anything. They're nonsense. They're complete and utter nonsense. There's some firings in the brain while you are away in another world. So they don't mean anything. And if you put stock into them, it's a waste of time. My dreams have become very vibrant since I've been eating one meal a day. My dreams are like watching movies. So that's what they are. They're like watching movies. They don't mean anything, but they are some form of weird entertainment. But they don't have any meaning because they don't make any sense. They don't have anything to do with the world we live in. You could have a dream that means something. Maybe 99 out of 100 dreams mean nothing. And then every 1 out of 100 dreams, you get some form of revelation. I did have one form of revelation from a dream one time in my life, one time. Other than that, because my dreams are so vivid and vibrant, I can remember them when I wake up, and they're just nonsense. They don't mean anything. They're nothing. So there's no reason to put stock in them. People have gotten mad at me before for something they dreamed about. And I think, you idiot, that didn't really happen. It's not real. Dreams are nothing but a bit of fun and nothing to get your panties in a bunch about. Josiah asks, did you feel bad even with sweet potatoes, spinach, and other quote-unquote healthy vegetables? A lot of primal nutritionists value these as much as they value animal fat via meat and butter. Only a retarded primal nutritionist would value sweet potatoes and spinach and other healthy vegetables as much as or animal fat via meat and butter. Animal fat is the holy grail of health. Sweet potatoes and spinach and vegetables are anti-nutrients. That means they actively rob your body of nutrients. When I ate potatoes and spinach and other healthy vegetables, it felt like my bones were disintegrating because vegetables, when not prepared properly, and we never prepare them properly, are anti-nutrients, and they rob your body of nutrients. And that's what people don't understand today. It's something we have not studied, or maybe we have studied, and the companies like Monsanto, maybe they hide the studies. Hey, I'm not suggesting anything, but I'm just saying maybe. I will start writing more about the lie about vegetables, because I did eat a lot of fruit and vegetables at one time, and that was the worst time of my life. The worst time ever. I was absolutely in chronic pain and chronic fatigue. and when I cut out all carbohydrates from my diet, ooh-wee, the change was night and day. And I mean drastic. He asks also, what was the source of your problems, carbs or lectins? Beans cause problems due to lectins. All carbohydrates cause me problems, whether they are, I don't eat beans, but whether they are spinach or potatoes or corn or straight sugar. They all cause problems because they are all not foods we are meant to eat. They are anti-nutrients. Plants don't want to be eaten. And when you eat them, they release anti-nutrients saying, I don't want to be eaten. So the only way that you can neutralize the anti-nutrients and the inflammatory properties in the plants is by preparing them in a certain way, such as fermentation, which is something we don't do today. A lot of people even eat raw vegetables, which is the worst goddamn thing you could ever do for your health. He goes on to say, carbs are needed for high energy. I thought, did you ever feel unable to work energetically at the gym? He goes on to say, I have only 2 hours of happy, cheerful, motivated mental energy of the day, and the rest of the time I'm either apathetic, depressed, or cranky due to gas above my rectum. So he says carbs are needed for high energy, and he says he has only 2 hours of energy per day. Okay, that's exactly the way I used to be. I had 2 hours of energy a day, and that was all I had. After 2 hours, I had to go lay down on the couch because I had no energy. I was apathetic, cranky, depressed, gassy, bloated, all of this stuff. It was the worst time ever when I decided to eat carbohydrates. I've always been mostly a meat eater, but there was a time where I listened to people. See what happens when you listen to the consensus? And there was a time where I listened to the consensus and ate fruits and vegetables, and dear God, I had no energy whatsoever. No energy, and I couldn't figure out why not. Well, now that I don't eat poison, I have energy all day long, steady energy all day long. I would laugh at that measly, pathetic 2 hours of energy I had. At the time, it wasn't funny. It was terrible. It was awful. I literally only had 2 hours of energy a day. I knew if I woke up at 9, I knew I had until 11 to get anything done. If I didn't get anything done by 11, I wouldn't get it done until the next day. I had no energy after 2 hours of waking up. It was a living nightmare. And now I'm living in a dream because I don't eat this poison we call carbohydrates. Then he asks, how does one not need coffee to work optimally? I thought you were saying we need coffee to do our best, like Tesla was saying. I'd be thrilled if I could have a diet that allowed me to not drink caffeine. Okay, you don't need caffeine on the carnivore diet. It's unnecessary. I drink coffee 1 time per week. It's my ritual before I do the podcast, and I might have to change it because it messes up my voice. Other than that, I don't need coffee. I never need coffee. In fact, if I do have a coffee, I feel worse. So it's silly to be drinking it. People need coffee if they're eating carbohydrates and have no energy. Tesla was a semi-vegetarian who only ate meat infrequently, so of course he needed coffee to do his best work. When I was eating carbs, of course I needed coffee to do any goddamn thing ever. Now, I drink coffee 1 time per week, maximum. I don't need it. I feel fantastic all day long. I have steady energy all day long. And it's thanks to not eating carbohydrates and eating more saturated fat and cholesterol. Octavio asks, can you explain a little more about your understanding of race and its importance, if any? Ooh, yeah. There's so much I could say about this topic that I could probably fill 100 podcasts with this. The first thing I'll say is that they don't want you to understand the importance of race. They don't want you to understand that it is important to identify with your race. They don't want you to understand that multiculturalism is actually suicide. So if you believe in multiculturalism, it means you want to kill your people and devolve into a new people. This is called the browning of Europe and America. And I hate to get all conspiracy on you, but this is reality, and all you have to do is look around you. If you live in a Western country, why is it the Western countries are flooded with non-white immigrants, but other countries are not? You have to think about these things. And the reason is they want the races to become browned out. They want the white races to become browned out. And this is called the Kalergi Plan. The Kalergi Plan, K-A-L-E-R-G-I. Look it up. Educate yourself. There are people in this world who hate the white race, who hate the Aryan race with a fiery passion that we simply can't understand, because Aryans, we don't hate anybody. We don't. It's all been a lie that they have projected onto us. We don't hate anybody. We just don't. We don't care. So they project this lie that we think we're the master race and we hate all other races and we're such races. It isn't true. It's not true. It's a projection by other people. Their projection causes us to feel white guilt and to actively participate in our own suicide. So what's happening in the West is the suicide of the West. The West is great because of the people. Biology is destiny. Biology is why you have countries the way they are. It's the people that make the countries. It's not the government that makes the countries. It's not the ideals. It's not the culture. It's the biology. It's the people. Countries are the way they are because of the people who live there. If you change that, you change everything about those countries. So why are white countries the best countries to live in where everybody wants to go and live in? It's because the people made them great. When you change the people, you change those countries. So all of our countries are committing suicide by listening to multiculturalism. It's very important to understand that your race is your birthright. Whatever you are, you must be proud of it. If you're black, be proud of it. If you're Mexican, be proud of it. If you're white, be proud of it. But you must not commit suicide. It's so very important to understand the importance of your race because other people in this world absolutely do understand the importance of race. Those people would like to see the white race disappear. And that's what's happening. Look at the Kalergi plan. Kalergi. Google it. Educate yourself. He goes on to ask, how do you know how the animal was killed or if it was mercifully killed? Well, the way that you can know is to simply not buy stuff at your local large supermarkets. Now, if you're not in America, you might have a different slaughterhouse culture in your country, but in America, the animals are killed in a very torturous manner, in a very bad manner. They're kept confined in terrible animal prisons, and they're killed in a very violent, sadistic way. This gives you bad karma when you eat it. So in America, it's important to buy your meat from a local farmer or a local rancher who slaughters the animals not with kindness, but with a quickness and does not prolong their suffering and lets them live a happy life, rooting around in the grass or whatever it is they do, and then just take them out when the time is right. Conrad asks, does it matter where you purchase your domain from in regards to security and longevity? It can because some people really hate GoDaddy.com. I'm one of those people. I would never purchase a domain name from GoDaddy.com ever again unless I had to. If you're a domain name investor, you will have to do business with GoDaddy because they are the number one. But they have taken domains from me that were worth over $10,000 before. So I personally hate GoDaddy with a fiery passion. I'd love to see them go down in flames. Would recommend you never use GoDaddy.com. That's just my opinion. Do whatever you like. But I hate them with a fiery passion. You know who's a really good one is InternetBS.com. I get a lot of domains from InternetBS.com, and also if you use Badnet.com, you get a free domain name from Bluehost, and we've never had any problems with them. So those are two that are good. If you want a free domain name with your website, go to Badnet.com, and we'll get that set up for you. Jorgen asks, you mentioned the term Kali Yuga, which means you must be a fan of Julius Evola. Could you go into how you apply his philosophy into your life and work? Okay, I've never heard of Julius Evola until I saw this comment. The Kali Yuga is something that predates Mr. Evola by quite a long time. The Kali Yuga is something discovered by the Indo-Aryans, which are white Indian people basically. And it is the last of 4 cycles of the earth. It is the dark time of the earth. But I did look at Mr. Evola, Julius Evola, and I like what I saw. So I'm going to read you a couple quotes from him, and let's go. The best and most authentic reaction against feminism and against every other female aberration should not be aimed at women as such, but at men instead. It should not be expected of women that they return to what they really are and thus reestablish the necessary inner and outer conditions for a reintegration of a superior race when men themselves retain only the semblance of true virility. Okay, that was kind of a tongue twister. What he means is that men today are not really men. Men today are not virile. So how can we expect women to be women when the men are not men? When the men are not virile, the women will be, because women are our opposites. And when men are weaklings, women will have to become strong. to counteract that. So if we want women to be women again, men have to be strong. We must place the blame directly on our shoulders for being weak. And I'll be the first to admit we are weak. As men, we are weak. We are allowing women to be the leaders now. We're allowing them to dictate. When nature says man dictates, woman obeys. Now we're saying woman dictates, man obeys. And that's what's happening. So you must become a virile. You must become a real man if you want women to be women. He says, my principles are only those that before the French Revolution, every well-born person considered sane and normal. He is so correct there that everything I'm telling you, friends, is what people 150, 200 years ago took as obvious. Today, we don't live in the obvious world. We live in the opposite of obvious. Everything they tell us is the opposite of obvious. It is the opposite of the truth. It is truth inverted is what we live in today. But a couple hundred years ago, they were not so stupid like we are today. He says, the Americans are the living refutation of the Cartesian axiom. I think, therefore I am. Americans do not think, yet they are. Ooh-wee. That is the quote that really hit home for me, because since I've been in America, that is what I've noticed, is that people here do not think. Their thinking is done for them by the news media. The news media tells them what to think, and they just repeat it. It's like living in the land of the mind snatchers. There's a movie called The Body Snatchers, or something like that, Invasion of the Body Snatchers, where aliens come down and they take over the bodies of the people, but then the other people don't know, so you don't know who's real and who's an alien. Well, it's like that here. Their minds have been completely taken over and completely controlled by the news media that they don't think. It's unbelievable. But when you get into America, you realize that the amount of propaganda is everywhere and in everything. It's everywhere. It is so difficult to escape it because it's everywhere. And even if you don't watch the news or pay attention to any media, your friends and family do. And they believe everything they see on the TV and the news, what the news says. They don't think here. They don't think. It's a really crazy thing that they don't think. They just repeat. They think they're the land of the free. Well, gee willikers, used to be the land of the free. Not today. I feel more freedom when I go to communist countries than I do in America. New Empire asks, do you know of a better formation for a family unit that is scalable across society? Polygamy would assist birth rates. It worked well for the early Mormons and current-day Muslims, but is it truly sustainable with other men wifeless? What are your thoughts? How else do we solve this problem? Okay, New Empire left me a long comment explaining that he got married because he wanted to have white children, so he found himself a wife and started himself a family, and I commend you for that. Even though I talk a little poo-poo about marriage, it is vitally important for our people to have children. Again, listen, I'm not trying to be Mr. Conspiracy tinfoil hat here, but we can see clearly they are trying to make us not have children via abortion, birth control, condoms, empowerment of women. All these things lead to less children. They are literally trying to kill us. And the way that we fight back is not political, because there is no political solution. The way that we fight back is starting families and having children. Traditional families and having children. If you can find yourself a traditional woman to have children with, do it. The hard part is finding somebody traditional in the land where I told you everybody is brainwashed and everybody doesn't think for themselves. They think only the consensus, and the consensus tells them the opposite of the truth. The consensus tells them that families are bad and men are the same as women and all these kind of things, when all that is not true. We have to fight back, and we do have to have children. Children are the future. Without children, there is no future for us. Without children, we all commit suicide. So it is vitally important that we do have children, and there is no other way to do this than basically your standard marriage and family unit. So if you find yourself a lovely young lady who wants to pop out some children and doesn't want to live this modern life, I suggest you do it, because there is no other way. It is the way that you fight back, is having children. There is no sunshine without children in this world. It's vitally important for us to do that, and it took me a long time to figure that out. But I have figured that out. But that's that. I do commend you for having children, even though I talk a little shit about getting married, because so many men get married and then they get divorced, raped, and get their children taken away from them. But you've got to take the chance, because there is no future for our people without children. Oswaldo says, you stated you wanted to have children without getting hitched, as that would be a form of slavery. I, along with a lot of other men, am interested in just that. However, if one were to have children, wouldn't he still have to pay child support, meaning he is still a cash cow to women? Or is there a way to have kids without any obligation to the mother? I'm interested in what your game plan for achieving this is. Okay. Men and women are not equal. They are opposite. Men take care of women. Women take care of the children. The natural thing to do in this world is to provide for the women and children. That's the natural thing to do. The problem is the government comes in and convinces her that she can leave you and still get your resources. So she can leave you at any time and still get alimony and child support, and you could lose your children. You can lose your family. This is the problem. This is the big problem, is the government. It's not the women. It's the government. So the government allowing them to leave at any time and even promoting that lifestyle over and over and over repeatedly and subtly. But you'll see it in every movie. You'll see it everywhere. In all pieces of news media, you'll see them promote divorce. And they'll be able to just get your money and your resources without needing you there. And they'll believe that that's how it should be. They'll believe that there's no problem being a single mother. When, of course, look at all the prisoners in jail. All of them were the products of single mothers. So being a single mother is the worst thing a woman could ever do. It's the worst, most evil thing a woman could ever do, and our government promotes it. That should tell you one thing about why you should not listen to the consensus. Children need a mother and a father. The father takes care of the wife and the child. That's the way it is in nature. We've just got to make damn sure that who we do it with does not have the selfish desire to take your money and kick you away after you sign a government contract, which is what marriage is. It's a government contract. If you can have yourself a family without getting married, I highly recommend you do that, because getting married is nothing but signing a government contract that says the woman could leave you at any time for any reason and you'll still be on the hook for taking care of her. Dave asks, if plants are that bad, why are Japanese people not only intelligent, but have the longest life expectancy and they eat a shitload of plants? Well, number one, they ferment a lot of their plants. They don't prepare plants the way we eat them. They certainly don't eat any raw plants. They ferment the plants, which takes away a lot of the inflammatory aspects and a lot of the anti-nutrients. They eat a lot of raw fish. They eat only fresh food. They don't eat food from a factory like we eat here in America. And all of that, and they don't overeat. They're not overeaters at all. They stop eating when they're full. And they get about 5 more years on average than Americans do. So all of that good stuff they do, they only get 5 more years over Americans who eat garbage, who eat industrial garbage as food. So if they lived more on raw fish and pork and less on vegetables, they would live longer. Ed asks, when you said your race was Aryan, I looked into the whole history of the Aryan race, and it is very interesting. The Aryan race is spread amongst northern and western Europe, Central Asia, Iran, and western India. They practiced paganism and were patriarchal. They were a tough breed of people who conquered everywhere from England to India. Why do we never learn about these people? Also, unlike the Neolithic grain farmers in the Middle East, the Aryans were hunters, hunter-gatherers. Very interesting considering the elites want us to eat high-grain diets. Yes, you're right. High-grain diets are slave diets. They are slave diets, and they want us to eat that so we can be easily controlled. Meat keeps you strong, agile, and smart. Grains keep you weak, stupid, and docile. Now, regarding Aryan people, why do we never hear about them? Well, like I said, there's a group of people on this earth who hate the Aryan people with a fiery passion that we cannot understand, and they want us to be exterminated. And I really can't say it in a clearer way than that. They want us to die. And when you look at the policies of the Western countries, flooding them with non-white immigrants, promoting sterilization of females, promoting abortion, promoting the dissolvance of the family, we can see that clearly. This is not happening in African countries. It's not happening in South America. It's not happening in Asia. It's only happening in white countries. It's because they hate our race with a fiery passion. I hate to be a real Debbie Downer, but you have to understand this. We always project our feelings onto other people. So we as a people, we don't hate other people. We're happy-go-lucky people. So we don't understand when other people hate us. And we don't understand why. We don't believe that it's true. But it is true. Here's a quote from Julius Evola. An Aryan mind has too much respect for other people, and its sense of its own dignity is too pronounced to allow it to impose its own ideas upon others. even when it knows that its ideas are correct. So the Aryan mind, it doesn't want to impose on other people. It wants other people to be able to do their own thing. What is happening is because of this, other people's wills are being imposed onto us. And they are teaching us to hate ourselves and to hate our ancestors and to despise our future and to not even want a future. They're leading us into suicide, and we have to resist. And the way that you resist, of course, is understanding the importance of your race, having pride in your race, and having children who look like you. And regarding eating grains, of course they want us to eat grains because the prey eats grains and the predator eats meat. If you listen to the advice of the predator, you will become the prey. They dumb you down by getting you to eat feed instead of food, plants instead of animals. In nature, plant eaters are always the prey. And all poor classes in the world live on grains or plants because they are slave food. In regarding the importance of understanding your race, it's important because very soon we're going to notice that there has been a massive transfer of wealth from the people who created it to non-whites over the next 50 years. There's going to be a massive transfer of wealth from us to them. And we're going to look back in total disbelief and wonder why we were so convinced that becoming a minority in our own homeland was some kind of strength. JP asks, you once wrote that we should ignore the news because most news deliver nothing but bad news, like corruption of a government official, stealing, killing. Yes, that makes sense just to ignore them altogether. But on the other hand, isn't it that the news is what will keep us informed? Just an example, it is what will inform us of a new modus operandi used by the criminals for their crime and how to avoid it. So while the news is mostly toxic, at some degree it can be useful for us. What do you think of this? No, I don't agree, because when we go out in the world, we see one thing. Then when we turn on the news, we see another. We always see death, destruction on the news. It is because the news exists to keep us in fear and to keep us divided, because if they can keep us in fear and keep us divided, they can easily conquer us. When we're afraid of everything, we are more docile. And Americans, more than anybody else anywhere in the world, live in a constant state of fear. And that's the number one thing I notice when I'm in America, is that we live in fear, constant fear. The news helps to do this. The news does not keep you informed. It keeps you enslaved in a mental prison. And even if you don't watch the news, your friends and family do. And I recommend you don't watch the news, but you can't get away from it because your friends and family live in that state of fear. And they're going to tell you everything that the news says. So once you educate yourself as to what's happening, you don't need to watch the news because you know what's happening. You know that they're telling lies to divide and conquer and eventually kill you. They've convinced all of us to live in a constant state of fear, mistrust, and isolation. They get us to trust the government and distrust our fellow people, when it should be the other way around. We should never trust the government. We should always trust our neighbor. We should always trust our people. We should never turn our backs on our own people. But that is the opposite of what we do in America. Jason asks, what advice should I give my 80-year-old grandfather to improve his health? He currently takes a bunch of medications and had a hip replacement surgery. He eats a normal balanced diet and is not overweight at all. There's nothing you can do to help your grandpa, because I've noticed this about old people. They believe in doctors. They believe that doctors are gods and that everything the doctor says is the truth. And if the doctor says eat margarine instead of butter, they're going to do it. If the doctor says take these pills, they're going to do it. And they're going to tell you, they're going to say, my mom lived to 100 years old. She never went to a doctor. She never took any medicine. She always ate bacon and eggs. And I feel terrible. I feel like I'm going to die way before my mom did. And I'm taking all these medicines from the doctor. And it's like, hey, grandma and grandpa, wake up. The doctors are feeding you poisons. Wake up. But they refuse to wake up. I see this even with my own grandma. So always going to the doctor for some problem. She just gets worse and worse. And her own mother lived on a farm, wouldn't even take an aspirin pill. It lived until she was 102. But these people, they won't listen. They simply won't listen. They've been brainwashed very heavily by the medical industry. They have forsaken their own survival instincts. And they're happy to die for their medicine. And there's really nothing you can do about it, except don't fall for the same lies yourself. We don't need all this medicine. There are different ways to make yourself healthy. The number one way you can make yourself healthy is with your food. Your food is your number one. Exercise your number two. Actually, probably sleep is your number one. Food your number two. Exercise your number three. And then way down the line, you got medicine. But our medical industry, we only have allopathic medicine, which means we only give medicine. We only give pills to solve problems. We don't solve problems in the natural way. These pills are going to end up killing all of our grandparents way earlier than they should be killed and they should die. And they won't listen to reason. So all you can do is plant little seeds in their mind and say, people in the past, they lived a lot longer and they ate bacon and eggs and they didn't take any pills. Just keep planting seeds, and nobody will ever change unless they want to change. Nobody will ever change because you came out of the blue and gave them advice to change. They won't listen to you. They're so brainwashed into believing that a doctor is a god that they simply won't listen. So plant seeds and then hope for the best. Stan asks, my 12-year-old brother is a full-blown video game addict. He plays for 10 hours a day. On weekends, he is in a dark room sun up to sundown staring at the screen with a headset on. He spends the whole summer playing games in a dark room. As a result, he does not enjoy anything else and quit all sports. He does not talk to me anymore as he only cares about the games. I can see in his eyes and paleness of his body how this is degenerating him mentally and physically. How can I get him to quit? Well, you can't. The only thing you can do is you can be a role model to show him the opposite way. I mean, he's only going to quit when he wants to quit. People will not change until they want to change. It has to be his own idea. So you got to plant seeds in his mind that makes him think it's his own idea. You got to be the role model for him and just plant these little seeds. How life is great when you get outside. Life is great when you're not on video games all the time. Life is better. Life is very bad when you're on these games all the time. But it's probably going to take him a number of years to get out of this misery that he's in. And this is a product of our society because we don't let our children go outside and play anymore. Because we live in a state of fear. We're afraid that something bad is going to happen if they go outside. So we put them in front of a TV or a computer or a game. And what happens is they turn into these fucking weirdos. These weirdos who live in a dark room all day, staring at screens and degenerating their bodies and their minds. It isn't your fault that your 12-year-old brother is like this, but it is the fault of your society and especially of your parents who did let him go outside and who gave him this screen. I'll tell you what, friends, if you have children, don't give them a screen. Don't give them a computer. Don't give them a phone. Do not allow these things in your home. If you work online, put this stuff in your office and lock it up. Do not allow your children to be on this stuff because it will degenerate their bodies and their minds. Keep them away from this stuff. It is more addictive than sugar, more addictive than heroin, more addictive than anything you can think of. These computer games, the most addictive thing in the world. Keep them away from your children. Al asks, what are your thoughts on ADHD and how to manage it? I think it's very real and meds help. What are some ways you recommend to manage it? Okay, it is real. Meds don't help. The reason you have ADHD is because you're not eating the right diet. It's as simple as that. Diet fixes 99% of our problems. And ADHD, they're not eating the right diet and they're not getting exercise. So children, of course, they don't want to pay attention in school. School is boring and they're teaching them lies. Of course they don't want to pay attention in school. Of course they want to go outside and run around and play. Of course they want to do anything else. School is not natural and they're eating the wrong foods. They're eating carbohydrates. They're eating breakfast cereal, which is basically industrial waste produced in a factory and coated with sugar. If they're eating bacon and eggs, the right natural food, they would be much more calm and they would not be so agitated. Sugar is a drug. Sugar is a drug. They're eating these drugs and becoming agitated, causing ADHD. Stop giving them sugar and it goes away. Stop eating sugar yourself and ADHD goes away. I used to have ADHD too because I was eating plants instead of meat. When I changed from plants to meat, the clarity in my mind was unbelievable. I went from not being able to study anything to reading. I read probably 2 or 3 books a day. Not whole books, but I read portions of 2 or 3 books every day. I've read so many books in the past few months from being on the carnivore diet that it's insane. And I have such mental stability and clarity that it's unbelievable. And it all comes from diet. Drugs don't help. They make you worse. Food helps. It makes you better. Eat the carnivore diet. Don't eat carbohydrates. Your ADHD will disappear. James asks, what will make a woman stay with you longer? I seem to hook up with women maybe a few times and they stop communicating. Is it just American women that are like this, or is there more I can do, such as becoming even more jacked and rich? I seem to overanalyze myself and consider that the other person may have issues. Okay, the other person does have issues, and getting more jacked and rich is not going to make any difference because in America, we have something called dating apps. And dating apps give women unlimited attention from men. So you're never going to be able to compete with others because they probably have 1,000 messages a day from other men who want to be with them. And women have something in the brain which is called hypergamy. Hypergamy makes them always want something better. Women want something better than them. They don't want something below them. And that doesn't mean you are below them. It just means in her mind, she thinks she can get something better. And it doesn't matter how good you are. She always thinks she can get something better because she constantly is told by our education system and our media that you can do better, you can do better, you can do better. That is constantly reinforced on her social media and her dating apps from 10 million men a day saying, hey, I love you. I'd love to do something for you. If you want a woman to stay with you, give her no other options. That's really the way it is. Women will only stay with you if you are the best option. And when she has 10 million options, you can never be the best option. So I know this is a non-answer, but it is an explanation as to why it is happening. Essentially, you have to be the very best she can get. That means you must date somebody who doesn't use dating apps or social media and doesn't go to clubs. If your wife has a Facebook, a cell phone, and goes out with her girlfriends, I can pretty much guarantee it's not going to work out too well for you. So you must not allow these things. And yes, I'm telling you, do not allow your woman to be on Facebook, to be on social media, to be on dating apps, to go to clubs. I would never allow this. And yes, I'm telling you, I would say, no, you are not allowed to do that. You must become a man if you want the woman to become a woman. You must become dominant and say what is accepted and what is not. Peter asks, I tried high fat and I feel oddly full, a bit nauseous, and not as satisfied as I was with carbs. Is this saying I'm not meant to eat high fat or that my body is not adjusting? No, it means that your body is adjusting. Everybody is meant to eat high fat. It is the building block of human health. And if you switch directly from high carbs to high fat, there's going to be an adjustment period because your body is not quite used to it yet. It just takes time to get used to. Then he says, have you noticed that liver energizes you? It's better than anything else. Yeah, liver is the holy grail of vitamins. It is the holy grail of vitamins. It is a very terrific source of vitamins. I eat liver every week, sometimes every day, but certainly every week I eat it. And it is the best nutritious food you can get that is full of the vitamins you need. William asks, I'm working extremely hard, 3 jobs to pull in money and using my 1 day off to pay for professional fitness related YouTube videos to be filmed so I can progress to freedom. Sometimes during my long days of working for other people, some days as long as 7 a.m. till midnight, I really have moments of emotion, finding it sometimes hard to see the bigger picture and where I'm headed, and get really angry or upset, even tearful at times, like the work just never ends. Does this ever happen to you along the way, and do you have any words on the subject? No, it never happened to me along the way because I never did that. You're paying for these professional YouTube videos because you want to be on YouTube. And to get there, you're working 7 days a week at other jobs, working for other people, working from 7 a.m. till midnight. I realized the futility of working for other people when I want to be working for myself, and I just quit and I went to work for myself. So, spending all of your time doing what you don't want to do so that you can do what you want to do doesn't make sense to me. If I want to do what I want to do, I just do what I want to do. I don't spend the time working these other jobs because it's silly. You need time and energy for your own project. And if you give all your time and energy to these other projects, you're never going to get where you want to be. If you want to get where you want to be, you got to go there. You got to go do what you want to do. So no, I don't relate to you working all day trying to make this money so that you can be an entrepreneur, because I took the easy way. I just stopped doing those jobs I hated doing, and I started doing what I like doing. And wouldn't you know it, it really worked out well for me. These people who are constantly working these other jobs and spend just the teensiest amount of time on their own project, I don't understand it. It doesn't make any goddamn sense to me. Unless you're $10 million in debt, just leave and do what you want to do. Lower your bills drastically so you don't have to work 12 hours a day doing jobs you hate and make you cry. By your own admission, they make you cry. So why do it? Why do it? If you know what you want to do, just do what you want to do. S asks, what is the best way to be paid money you are owed? I have made the big mistake of lending non-business people money. They do not realize the value of what I have done for them, and they are slow or late to paying me back. I know that they do not have ill intent, but they are stupid people when it comes to financial discipline. Well, they're stupid people, and you're a stupid person for loaning money to stupid people. The people who need money, yes, they're stupid and they're greedy. and they don't understand how money works, and they don't understand paying bills. If they knew how to pay bills, they wouldn't need to borrow money in the first place. They wouldn't borrow money from the first place if they knew how to pay you back. If they knew how to take care of themselves, they wouldn't need to borrow money. So you're the stupid one for loaning money to them in the first place. Now, if it's a friend or family, never loan money to a friend or family. If they need money and you have it, you can give it to them as a gift, because most of the time they're not going to pay you back. And what's going to happen is they're going to develop some sort of resentment and not want to see you because they know that they owe you money. Now, if you give money as a gift, it's fine. Say, here's the money. It's a gift. If you want to pay me back, fine. If you don't, fine. But here's the money. Otherwise, don't give them money because they're not going to pay you back, and it's going to cause a divide between you. And that's it. Rob asks, hey Vic, how does your portfolio look? You never said anything about this. Cash, real estate, cryptos, stocks. As an online entrepreneur who values freedom, I have too much fiat in bank accounts around the world and some cryptocurrency. That's it. But sometimes I think I should get a property in Thailand, a condo, or somewhere else. It's great to have property, especially in different places around the world. The unfortunate thing about Thailand is you cannot own land or houses as a foreigner. You can only own condos, but that's better than nothing. And in fact, there are many places around the world where you can invest in real estate and get a second passport, a second residency. And that could come in handy. And that's something that I would recommend a lot of people look into. A lot of international travelers, especially if you're American, I would recommend investing in some other country somewhere in some real estate and getting yourself a second passport out of it. Regarding my portfolio, I'm not going to discuss that, and that's that. Korea asks, hi, Uncle Vic. When going on a carnivore diet, should you take supplements of vitamin C? Wouldn't a lack of vitamin C lead to scurvy? Well, the thing is that fresh meat has vitamin C. So this thing about scurvy, we've heard the stories about sailors getting scurvy when they're out to sea and they don't have fresh vegetables. The reality is they're eating meat preserved in salt. So it's old meat preserved in salt, and the salt pulls out all the vitamins in the meat. So they're basically going vitaminless. When you eat fresh meat, you get vitamin C in abundance. So you don't need anything else on the carnivore diet. Meat has all you need, especially the internal organs. And in fact, there are many cultures who survived on nothing but meat. And to get high amounts of vitamin C, when they would hunt their animals, they would pull out the adrenal glands and eat those to get their vitamin C. But like I said, you get vitamin C in meat, in fresh meat. You won't get it in beef jerky, which is basically what the sailors were eating. They were eating beef jerky when they got scurvy. And when they eat fresh meat, scurvy goes away. Jacob asks, I'm having a difficult time figuring out what type of business to start. I think at this point, I'm at the point to where I'd like to start a business that of course helps people and one that I feel satisfied with. I feel empty more often than not, so I figure that starting a business that does both is the best options. What are your thoughts on this? Yeah, you should start a business that helps people and one that you feel satisfied with. Yeah, it's exactly what you should do. However, there seem to be some problems with your mental state. I would fix those before I wanted to start a business. I would start by having a more positive mindset. Negativity breeds more negativity. And if you think in this negative manner, negative things will manifest in your life. But if you think in a positive manner, if you put out positive vibrations, man, you'll get positive stuff back. So work on yourself first. And when you work on yourself, you're going to notice that opportunities open themselves up. When you are dissatisfied and sad with all the things in the world, you have no opportunities. But the person with a good, strong, positive mindset, opportunities just come to that person like they're a magnet for success. Luke asks, Vic, what type of laptop do you use when writing at the coffee shop? I use MacBooks. I've been using MacBooks since 2012. The new MacBooks are terrible. I'd recommend you getting a pre-2015 or 2014 MacBook. Get a used one. It's going to be much better than the new ones. I've had 2 new ones which broke. And my old ones have lasted me a long, long time. So right now I'm using a MacBook Air that I bought in 2014 or 2015 because my 2 newer MacBooks broke. So I recommend you get yourself an old MacBook, a MacBook Pro if you're going to be doing a lot of digital stuff like videos or podcasts or photos. Otherwise, if you're doing blogging, then any kind of MacBook will work, a MacBook or a MacBook Air. Like I said, I'm even recording this podcast on a MacBook Air, which I never thought I'd be able to do that, but I'm doing it just fine. So that's that. Dan asks, what advice can you give on persuasion and how to sell? Are there any books that you recommend? Persuasion is a really interesting topic, and I've got one really great way that's going to help you persuade people. What do you say we get into that on the next episode of the Bold and Determined podcast? We'll start with a little talk on persuasion and how to get people to do what you want them to do. And until then, friends, have yourself a nice day.